The town of Black Hollow always seemed to sink into an unnatural stillness after midnight. Streetlights flickered without reason, their glow barely pushing against the heavy darkness that pooled in the empty streets. On those quiet nights, when the wind refused to stir the trees and even the stray dogs disappeared, there was a rule that everyone followed: never answer the knock after midnight. No one knew where the rule came from, but it was whispered from childhood, passed down in careful warnings. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a superstition. It was survival. Elliot had never believed in small-town folklore. A skeptic by nature, he scoffed at his neighbor's hushed warnings. What? Some ghostly boogeyman is just knocking on doors? He laughed, shaking his head. If they want in, why not just open the door themselves? That was before the night he heard the knock. It came at exactly 3:07 a.m. 3 slow, deliberate taps against his front door. Not frantic, not accidental, intentional. Elliot sat up in bed, heart hammering against his ribs. His apartment was on the second floor. There was no way someone had reached his door without him hearing their approach. The air felt thick, pressing against his chest as he swung his legs over the bed. His breath caught when he noticed something strange. His phone screen was on, displaying a message he didn't remember typing. Don't open the door. Don't look out the window. Then, another knock. Closer this time. And then, his phone screen went black. Elliot's fingers hovered over his phone, his pulse thudding against his temples. He hadn't typed that message. He was sure of it. His apartment was locked, his windows shut. He was alone. Outside, the knocking had stopped. The silence was worse. It pressed against the walls, creeping into his bones like a cold draft. He swallowed hard, willing himself to move. His instincts screamed at him to check the peephole, but the message on his phone still burned in his mind. Don't look out the window. He wasn't superstitious, but there was something about those words, the way they appeared without warning, that unsettled him. His throat was dry as he forced himself to breathe. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe one of his co-workers from the radio station thought it would be funny to mess with him. Yeah, that made sense. Elliot rubbed his temples and glanced at his alarm clock, 3:09 a.m. He had work in a few hours. His job at Black Hollow's late-night radio station, WXN 103.6, meant he was used to strange callers and bizarre small-town superstitions. He'd heard every ghost story this town had to offer, from the faceless man on Willow Street to the woman who wept beneath the old bridge. But this was different. His apartment was on the second floor of a 3-story building. The only way up was a narrow, creaky staircase, and the motion sensor light outside his door should have flicked on if someone approached. He checked his phone again. No notifications, no call logs, nothing that could explain where the warning had come from. Then, from outside his bedroom window, tap, 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 the air in his lungs turned to ice. It was impossible. His window faced the alleyway. There was no fire escape, no ledge to stand on, no tree nearby that someone could have climbed. And yet, the tapping was unmistakable. Elliot's mouth went dry as he fought against every instinct screaming at him to look. He needed to be rational. Think logically. Maybe the wind had blown a branch against the glass. Maybe. Tap, tap, tap. This time it was more insistent. Elliot clenched his jaw and turned toward the window, his fingers curling into fists. If someone was playing a prank on him, he was going to give them hell. He took slow, deliberate steps toward the glass, his reflection dimly visible against the darkened alley outside. He lifted a hand, then stopped. There was another reflection standing behind him, his breath caught in his throat. His bedroom door was still shut. No one had entered. No one should be there, but the shape behind him was unmistakable. Tall, shadowed, its features blurred like a smudged photograph. Elliot turned around so fast he nearly tripped. Nothing. The room was empty. His pulse pounded in his ears as he stumbled back, his legs hitting the edge of his bed. His phone buzzed, the screen illuminating the darkened room. A new message. Don't turn around. His blood ran cold. He was already facing forward. Then he heard it. The whisper, a low, raspy breath against his ear. You shouldn't have looked. Elliot whirled around, but he was alone. The room was silent, except for the sound of his own ragged breathing. He grabbed his phone, his hands shaking. He needed to get out of here. He didn't care if it was a prank. He didn't care if it was a dream. Every nerve in his body was telling him one thing: leave, now. He snatched his keys and bolted for the door. His fingers fumbled with the lock, twisting it so hard he nearly broke it. He yanked the door open, ready to run, but the hallway was gone. Instead, he was staring at his own living room. His heart slammed against his ribs. He had just run out of his bedroom. The hallway should have been there. But instead, he was back inside, standing in front of his couch, the TV flickering with static. This wasn't possible. He turned back. His bedroom door was shut. His phone buzzed again. He didn't want to look, but his fingers moved on their phone. You can't leave, not after midnight. The temperature in the room plummeted. His breath came out in thin white wisps. Then, knock, knock, knock. It wasn't coming from the door anymore. It was coming from inside his closet. Elliot's skin prickled with cold sweat. His closet door stood a few feet away, barely visible. In the dim light of the flickering television, another knock, 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 knock. Slow, deliberate. From the inside. His body refused to move. He gripped his phone so tightly his knuckles ached, his breath coming in shallow gasps. His mind scrambled for an explanation, any explanation, but there was nothing rational about this. The knocks came again. This isn't happening. His legs felt locked in place. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to run, but he knew there was nowhere to go. Not when his apartment had twisted into something impossible. Another message buzzed onto his phone screen. Don't open it. Whatever you do, don't open it. His stomach churned. His eyes flicked from the screen to the closet. Who was sending these messages? How were they appearing? Elliot took a shaky step backward, his heels brushing against the couch. His mind raced. If he couldn't leave through the door, maybe the window. Tap, tap, tap. No, not again. He snapped his head toward the window. The glass was black, as though something outside had swallowed the light. And then, a breath. Warm condensation spread across the inside of the window, as if something had exhaled from within his apartment. Elliot bit back a strangled sound, his pulse hammering so hard it hurt. This wasn't possible. None of this was possible. Then, creak. His head snapped toward the closet. The door was opening. Slowly, inches at a time, a sliver of darkness stretched out into his apartment, deeper than shadows should be. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was something else entirely, something hollow and shifting, like a black hole pulling everything inward. Elliot moved before he could think, lunging for the TV remote and pressing the power button. The room was plunged into darkness. For a moment there was silence. Then, footsteps. Soft, careful, coming from the closet. Elliot clamped a hand over his mouth, forcing himself to stay absolutely still. The air in the room felt suffocating, thick with something unseen, something watching. A voice slithered through the darkness. You looked. You listened. Now you let me in. The whisper curled around him, so close it felt like it was inside. His head, his phone vibrated violently in his hand. He didn't want to look, but he had no choice. One final message glowed on the screen. Run! He didn't hesitate. Elliot bolted toward the front door, throwing himself against it. His fingers scrambled at the locks, but they wouldn't budge. The handle was ice cold beneath his grip. He yanked, twisted, pulled. Nothing. It was as if the door wasn't even real anymore, just an illusion of escape. Behind him, something moved. He felt it before he saw it. A shift in the air. A presence pressing against the walls, stretching out from the closet like creeping vines. A sharp, rasping breath sounded against his ear. Elliot spun around, but there was nothing there. No figure, no face. Just the closet door, now wide open, its darkness stretching impossibly deep, like a tunnel leading into nothingness. His phone buzzed again. I'm already inside. A wave of nausea crashed over him. He stumbled back, pressing himself against the unyielding door. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. His breath came in ragged gulps. Then, his television turned back on. But there was no static this time. It was showing his apartment. A live feed. His own living room. Empty except for... Elliot's stomach dropped. There was someone standing in the reflection of the TV screen. Tall, motionless, just behind the couch. Right behind him. The breath at his neck was real this time. The lights flickered. Then everything went black. The darkness wasn't empty. It was thick, suffocating, pressing against Elliot like unseen hands. His breath came in short, panicked bursts, his skin prickling as if something was just out of reach, waiting. The silence stretched, deep and endless. Then, a whisper, not from behind him, not from the closet. It came from inside his own head. You... Let me in! Elliot's throat tightened. He squeezed his eyes shut, gripping his phone like a lifeline. He needed light, anything. His thumb fumbled over the screen, tapping blindly, desperate to see. The flashlight flickered on, and that's when he saw it. The reflection in the TV wasn't just standing behind him anymore. It was grinning. His own face, warped, stretched, twisted into something hollow and wrong. The smile was too wide, the eyes too deep, like two black pits that swallowed everything inside them. And then, it moved. Not in the TV, in the room. Elliot's stomach lurched as his reflection stepped forward. Not mirrored, not trapped behind. Glass, but real. Here! You shouldn't have looked! The voice rasped, slipping from the twisted version of himself. His body locked in place. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was as if something was pulling him in. The walls blurred, the edges of his apartment warping like melting wax. The figure stepped closer. The grin widened. Elliot's mind screamed at him to run, to fight, to do something. But he couldn't. The reflection reached out, and as its fingers touched his chest, the world shattered. No sound, no pain, just nothing. A vast, endless blackness swallowed him whole. Elliot's eyes snapped open. Silence. He was standing in his living room, exactly where he had been before the darkness took him. The apartment looked the same. The couch, the coffee table, the television still flickering with static, but something was off. The air felt heavier, thicker. The walls seemed to lean in, just slightly, as if the room had shrunk. His phone buzzed in his hand. A message. Are you still there? His fingers trembled as he typed back. I think so. The response came instantly. Check the mirror. A cold dread coiled in his stomach. Slowly, hesitantly, he turned toward the hallway where a tall, narrow mirror hung beside the bathroom door. He stepped closer. The reflection staring back at him was him. Same tired eyes, same wrinkled t-shirt, same tension in his jaw. But then, it blinked, and Elliot hadn't. His breath hitched. He took a slow step back. The reflection tilted its head. Not a natural movement, too slow, too deliberate, like a puppet being controlled. Elliot's heart pounded. His fingers dug into his palms. Then, the reflection smiled. That same too-wide grin. You shouldn't have looked. The voice didn't come from the mirror. It came from behind him. Elliot didn't turn around. He didn't have to. because as the cold breath curled against the back of his neck, as his own reflection grinned wider, too wide, he finally understood. He hadn't escaped. He had switched places, and as the thing wearing his face stepped away from the mirror, free, Elliot could only watch from the other side, trapped in the glass, pounding against the surface. But no one could hear him. Not anymore.